Welcome back, CEDIA 2020. Thanks for joining us here at the Modus VR booth. We are getting into our 7th demo of the day, and I'll tell you what, we're getting some really great results. So for those of you who are just joining us, we'll give you a quick recap on what Modus VR is all about. So some of you may have seen us at shows in the past. We've come a long way in the last 12 months since CEDIA 2019, and we've got some really great new features to show everybody. So first and foremost, Modus VR is a sales and design tool for AV professionals. What we allow you is real-time collaboration and workflow with a customer. Some of our dealers even use it with interior designers or architects, contractors, etc. It allows you to explore the ideas and concepts of a room long before any money is spent doing things like building or pulling wire, and allows you to really go through and explore the ideas of the room and the flow of the room without having the consequences of building it and then figuring out it wasn't done right. And so how does this all come together? Well, we're happy to show you now in about a 20-minute demo what it looks like to put together a room. So as I mentioned, this is our 7th demo of the day. You can go back in the YouTube stream and see the previous demos, different types of rooms. So every room that we've done today has been a little bit different. Room number 7 that we're coming up on now is actually a large conference room. This was done for a manufacturer about 2 years ago. The room was, and it was actually for acoustic treatment. So we wanted to model this room out, and I've got the guys in VR, but what we're going to show you is the start to finish process. So the first thing you do to get a space started in Modus is come into our launcher here, and you're going to create a space. So we're going to click this, and we're going to call this is actually, I'm going to say it's a red conference room because I know that, but it's the red conference room. Now, you've got two options once you go to create your space. You can either create a simple space that's just a square or rectangular, four-walled room, or we can go into the complex editor. And I'm going to go ahead and do this, even though this is a rectangular room, I'm going to go ahead and do this in the complex editor to show you a new feature in our launcher that we just released in June. So if you've seen the launcher in a previous demo, or maybe you've played around with Modus in the past, this is a fully new ground-up built suite for all the creation portion of Modus. So majority of what you do happens in VR, but there are some small elements that you have to handle outside of VR, and this is where it all starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up the reference image. This is room number 7, and you can import any image file as long as it's scaled properly and has a dimension called out on it. You can use this in Modus. So once I've opened up the image, I have the ability to calibrate the image here, and what I want to do is find the longest known dimension in the room, which is going to be this 33 feet 8 inches. Just come in here, and I'm actually going to close these tips and tricks so I can see you real well. And we'll just draw a nice straight line along that wall. And then I know that that's 33 feet 8 inches. As long as I call that out, it has now scaled the image into our software so that when you start drawing walls, everything should line up just perfectly. Now you can adjust the transparency of this as well, so if you've got a real dark or light image, you can fine-tune that. You can also rotate it, but we know that this is the correct orientation for the room. So once I've got that calibrated, I can set my ceiling height here. This room is actually a 9-foot ceiling, so I don't need to do anything there. I can also change this to imperial or metric if I wanted to. But the other thing I like to do here is go to 1-inch snapping and get some nice crisp precision. And then all you have to do to start adding walls is click this Add Walls button. There's also some shortcuts that I'll probably use here, but just for the sake of the demo, there you go. Using this Add Wall tool, just go ahead and click from this end to this end, create these walls, and these don't even need to be exact just yet. Now you'll notice that this image, this floor plan, is actually a little rough around the edge. It's actually been sketched by hand. It's actually been done in SketchUp by hand, but it shows the lines aren't perfectly straight, but everything we draw in Modus is perfectly straight. So there's a couple ways that we can get this room to be perfectly aligned. I'll start here by just getting one of the walls on top of that wall, and I'll get this wall here. Now you'll notice that all of the dimensions of these walls are called out in these little boxes, and you'll see some of them are blue. What I can actually do is by clicking on this wall, I can reset this dimension to 33 feet 8 inches, and you'll see it'll bring that wall right in, and it actually lined it up perfectly on that exterior wall there. Same thing with the width of the room, so we'll want to adjust this wall, which we can tell is a little bit off, and we'll just put in here a dimension of, let's see, 20 feet 8 inches. There we go, and that's lined that up. So these dimensions look pretty good. We're pretty well in alignment with the sketch of the room. So we're going to have a table, there's going to be some cabinetry, and a few other details. So everything else from this point on happens in VR until we come back to the launcher to do our deliverables. So I've got Ken and Scott standing by. I've turned on their microphones. Can you guys hear me over there in VR world?
Yes.
Hey,
Can you hear
Patrick.
us?
Hey, all right. Well, hopefully I did my job properly this go around, and you guys can be heard on the stream as well. I think all is good. See if I can see you. All right, so there you guys are. So right now they're just standing in a completely empty shell that is the dimensions we just entered in the launcher. From here, all the magic happens in VR. Go ahead, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Patrick. So I'm Ken in green.
And I'm Scott in blue.
And as Patrick mentioned, once you've drawn the shell of the room, everything else is done in VR when it comes to building out the space. The primary reason for that is one of speed. We're used to operating in a three-dimensional world, so when you have tools that are designed to take advantage of that, you have the ability to move much faster than you otherwise might with any other more traditional tools.
Now you guys have broken up some of the responsibilities of this room, I believe, right? Scott's going to handle most of the architecture, and you're going to do technology. Is that right?
For the most part, yeah. I'm going to help build out some of the early parts of the room just to get going. But yeah, that's exactly right. Once we get the shell built, we'll start working on the actual things that we're going to propose to the client on the technology side of things. And we'll do some demonstrations of different microphone capabilities and help hopefully walk a client through why we're recommending the specific products we're about to recommend.
Nice. Well, no pressure here, but I did start a timer, so you guys are at the 1 minute mark right now. So let's see if we can knock this room out in less than 10 minutes. What do you think?
Bring it on.
Yeah, let's do it.
So most of the objects that the guys are putting into the room right now are generic objects: light fixtures, soffits, windows, doors. These can all be scaled as necessary to fit the size and shape of the room. Now this particular room I'm actually real familiar with because I actually did some of the original conceptual designs on the acoustic layouts of, but they had some pretty cool architectural details. So there was a drop ceiling in the ceiling, as you see up above, but then in addition to that, they created these little flat soffits that had some ventilation and gave them the ability to actually mount some acoustic treatments and some other stuff up there. Now, one thing that Ken's adding right now is this whiteboard, and I think this is one of Ken's favorite features in Modus. Is the
I love it.
this was the original code for Modus right here, but it's gone now. It's all been wiped clean, so nobody knows.
It's
And
impossible to completely get rid of the residue.
That's right. And then, so on the ceiling,
Real whiteboard.
Scott's adding some generic light fixtures that can be stretched. So typically these would be installed like in a 2x2 grid, your traditional fluorescent fixture, but with the flexibility of Modus, we can actually resize them and turn them into strips as well. And this room actually had some really cool lighting strips on the ceiling. There's a small vent there on the wall where Ken's working, and a duct. And then that whole wall will be finished out with some windows. So you guys are about 2.5 minutes in, and this room's already, I would say, 75% done. So looking good.
It's getting there.
Windows. Ooh, that's a nice looking table. And so I think some of the challenges with this room were really have to do with technology, and I think this is something that Ken's going to touch on here after they get the room built out. But there was specific issues with the size of the room versus the conferencing technologies that were implemented originally. And this is an area where Modus will really shine in showing how those technologies can be improved and overall for our customers help increase the overall value of the sale. So looking pretty
really
close,
common
Scott.
problem.
How are we looking?
Yeah.
I got a little bit left. Just got to do these end walls.
Well, you guys are cruising right
Here.
along. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this room's a little more complicated than our typical. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I was going to say a really common complaint with conference rooms is just the basic functionality. It's the whole purpose of the room is for people to be able to meet, especially virtually, and be able to communicate over conference calls. And so many times there are these poorly designed conference rooms that either don't have enough acoustic treatment or don't have the right equipment. And as a result, the room just ends up not being used because everyone complains about not being able to hear each other on either side of the call. And so in this particular scenario, that was the problem that was being faced. And we're going to put together a nice package here that's got some reasonable amount of acoustic treatment that fits the decor of the room, but then also we're going to upgrade the equipment in the room to something that's going to work a little bit better. We've got these big long vents along the side there and 2 doors with a lot of glass where a lot of noise just has a tendency to seep through. So we're going to try and get a microphone that's a little bit better equipped for that type of thing. Then we'll also, while we're at it, we'll show some different screen options as well.
And which screen did you go with?
So for now, I put in just a generic television. This one is, oh, whoops. Sorry, Scott, you had a leered up there. I
Oh,
took
that's
it
okay.
down.
No worries.
I'm going to start off with an 85-inch television because I think this is a really important point to make.
Yeah, I can already tell that's, I mean, 85 inches to most people sounds like a huge TV, but they've never really experienced how small an 85-inch TV actually is in a 28-foot long conference room. And like you're
Exactly.
saying, I mean, that's one of these things that you know, this on paper probably looked great. It was an 85-inch TV. It probably had a decent budget, but from this end of this table, I mean, that's barely cutting the cake. And can you throw
Yeah,
some
if we
content
put
on there
some
so we can just
content
see
on there.
how lackluster it is? I mean, I can certainly read the titles. I can read info, and I've got pretty good vision. I can read infographics and I can read bar graph comparisons, but I'd have to get pretty darn close to see that those are months. I think those are months. Let's zoom in here. Yeah, those are months. I'd have to be here to actually read that.
Yeah, that's a pretty common challenge. I mean, especially when you have a longer conference room like this, it's a real issue. So how about you go back to we'll call it the CEO seat at the very back, and you can see exactly how small things are going to be for arguably the most important person in the room in these
Yeah.
meetings.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, budget might be an issue when they're talking about screen size, but at the same time, if the screen isn't working for their needs, then why bother having a screen at all?
All right,
And
let's
this is
get rid
where
of that
most
85
people-
inch. Sell me something bigger, Ken.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where it becomes so fun, is it's really easy to just toss different stuff in. So we could go for the really high end, like a Lear TWS, where it's a seamless video wall.
That's nice and bright over here too. There we go.
Yeah.
By the way, I think we're done. What was the timer?
We are at
yeah.
6 minutes 30 seconds. So
Nice.
Perfect.
Okay.
say if
That's
you
it.
know if you took that and multiplied it by the 2 people in here, still under 15 minutes to build this room. And this room looks fantastic right now. I'm really loving the way it came out.
Not too shabby. I feel like if we were trying to bid for a job, for example, and we put this as our best foot forward, it'd be really hard for anybody else to be able to compete with that. But then also once we start talking about the experience we can provide to the client, that's where Modus really helps an integrator shine because of this type of interactivity, right? Where we just swapped out the TV with the screen. Being able to do that type of thing on the fly is a huge advantage because it empowers your client. It's helping educate them with the details that matter so that then they can be guided to make the decisions that are in their best interest.
All right, now tell me a bit about
so-
this microphone stuff that you wanted to show me.
Yeah. So we fixed the video side. Let's talk microphone. So in this scenario, let's say they were previously using just the more standard on-table microphones. Besides those being ugly and sometimes adding a lot of cable mess, there are still better solutions out there. For example, we've got the Shure MXA 910, and on paper, this can be kind of a difficult product to sell because it's more expensive, but it's quite worth it once you understand what makes this thing so unique. And this is where Modus, once again, can really shine. Because what we can do with any product is highlight the features that matter. So in this case, this microphone has all of these steerable lobes. It's got 8 of them, where you can basically point the microphones to say, yep, please pick up these areas and nothing else. And so we can essentially target the areas that matter and not get the areas that don't. For example, this doorway is not going to be picked up at all. And because we can quickly show this to a client, they can now understand why we would be recommending this based on their objectives for the room as opposed to some other solution. This is, of course, fully dynamic, so I can move around the room and we can even optimize placement, but we know based on Shure's spec that this microphone really should be biased towards the screen because that's where everybody is going to be looking, and so we want their voices to be picked up as they're in that direction. And so the great part is, because we're able to visualize all of this so well, it takes seconds for us to get these complicated concepts across to the client. They understand it, they're ready to make a decision, and we're ready to move forward on getting a commitment, a check, and working on that install.
Nice. All right, so after we've done all that and we have the commitment from the customer, what happens next?
Yeah, so we've just talked in terms of building the room and then also even presenting possibly in VR, but VR isn't always a practical option. I mean, especially with the pandemic, you may not be able to do that. So a second option would be doing what we're doing now, where we are streaming a session so the client can still have that interactive, that real-time back and forth, which allows us to collapse weeks, sometimes even months of conversations down to a single session. But beyond that, we can also create a bunch of deliverables that are really handy. And so what we're going to be showing next is the ability to generate photos that can be used in marketing materials, emails, you name it. Line drawings that could be handed off to the installation team, architects, whoever else might need it. And then we're also going to be giving a sneak peek of panoramic 360s. And this is an extension of Modus Photo, which we just released a couple of months ago. But those are all going to be really fun things. And Patrick, I'll let you take the wheel on showing those off.
Absolutely. So once we've got the VR portion done, we can exit out of VR. We'll head back to our launcher here. So this is probably familiar from the beginning of the demo. So here's our file here, space number 7. And you can see there's a little thumbnail of the room as we built it now. So I've got a nice reference to tell me, yep, that's what it is. Here's all the other spaces we've been creating throughout the day and all the deliverables that we're going to create. All these deliverables we're going to actually post right back up into the CEDIA page. So you'll see them on a separate tab, Demo Deliverables, I think is what it's called. And I'll also post that 360 image that Ken had just hinted at on the chat so you guys can take a quick peek at it. So let's just hop in here. So we've got a couple options. So VR is where we were. Been there, done that. We'll go to photo last because I want to finish things up there. Edit floor plan is where we started. Right here is our create line drawings. This is our next portion of it. So obviously we did everything in VR. We got everything placed, but we don't really have any reference of where did we put stuff. So we liked where it felt like it was going to be positioned. We automatically get a floor and ceiling, reflected ceiling plan from the original drawing. Beyond that, we actually need to go ahead and set up some views. So to do that, we just click this little camera, and we'll just do screen, wall, elevation. And let's go ahead and find that screen wall. So there's the screen. And then if I hold Control, and it shows it over here on the tips and tricks, if I hold Control, I can actually scale this thing to fit whatever wall I'm closest to. And so you'll see as I pull this in and out, right here you're going to get all of the details. So this is the preview of it. We've got the screen, cabinet, here's those windows. If I wanted to pull in a little bit closer, maybe we want to get rid of some of the extra stuff, but I think this is probably a good view here to grab all of it. So grab that guy, and then I'm going to push the Alt key, and it's going to duplicate that camera for me. And I'm going to grab the back wall as well. I think that's probably important. Oops. Undo. Control Z, undo, as it should be. So this guy is going to be rear. And something I want to capture on this rear wall elevation is actually, I'm going to pull this view way back to this head chair, because I'd actually like all the chairs and tables to be included in that view, so we have sort of a cross-reference of where all that stuff's going to sit. So that's a nice view there. And then I'm going to grab one more view of the sidewalls. I don't know if there's any technology mounted on the sidewalls, but let's just grab this wall here. Oh my. There we go. So this wall, oh yeah, we had the acoustic panels, so that's something we wanted to call out. So once I've got the views set, and just for the sake of being thorough, let's just go ahead and we'll grab one of this other wall as well. So there's all of our elevations. Let's just name these as well. So this is right wall elevation, left wall elevation. Awesome. Okay, so we've got our 4 views set up. We're happy with all that. From here, I can go in and actually click annotate, and now I can actually go in here and put in all of the dimensionality that we want to call out. So obviously this large leered TWS, and if you hover over it, it'll actually call out what that item is. So there it is. You see a tooltip pops up that says leered TWS. So if you're ever confused about what that thing actually was, you can just go in there and highlight over it. So we'll go ahead and call that out, and we've actually got this little polycom guy here. So let's just do a tag on it. We'll just notate that this is a polycom camera, and we can make this box a little smaller so it fits in here nice and boop, like so. And the nice thing about this is that all of the individual objects that you populated in Modus are actually going to have a border on them, so you can just click into them and say, how big was that cabinet? Well, that cabinet was 9 feet wide, so maybe we want to call that out. And we also want to get the height of it at 2.6, so there we go. Pretty nice. Gives us a nice elevation there. So on the back wall we had this nice big array of acoustic panels, so we want to call those out, 9, 10. similar size to our TWS. And so you see all those chairs and the table are all showing up there in the view as well. And then the other nice thing is we got this right wall elevation with the whiteboards. So maybe we want to just say, are these centered? They're visually should be centered. They are centered, 9 inches. And how wide are they? 2. Awesome. 2 by... There. Get rid of that one. All right, so once you've got your markups all in here, and you can do as many or as little as you want. So you don't even really have to do any if you don't feel like it. I'm going to click Save, and then we're just going to generate drawings. And in here, we can go in here, and this was the red conference room. You can populate this information when you set the software up initially, but it can be changed on the fly as well. So maybe this is Jay's AV company. I don't know who Jay is, but it's his company. And you can set an image. Once you've set all your parameters here, you click Generate Drawings. You'll see I've got a list of these already in here. This is number 7. And now I'm going to jump over to our PDF viewer so you can actually see the final product. So this is actually the views that we've just created, all in a nice professionally formatted document. So you've got all your nice company info down here at the bottom. You've got a scale to indicate what exactly is being drawn here. So if you wanted to get out a ruler and actually go through and scale all this, everything is drawn to scale on the dock. All your views are here, and all the callouts are there. So that's great. Having line drawings is really important, especially if you want to hand it off to installers for reference. Maybe you want to make sure your installers get where'd those acoustic panels go? Get those acoustic panels positioned just right, or maybe this is what oops, zoom in on that a little bit. So there we go. Kind of get a nice close-up of this. So you want your installers to have a nice reference for when they go out and do the install, or maybe you're having a general contractor put up the acoustic treatments because nobody likes working with the glue. So there's a lot of reasons why having this particular set of documents would be useful. I would say arguably it's not the prettiest thing to send off to your customer though. So customers always want to see the renders. And traditionally renders are a thing that take a long time to usually get delivered. Whether you have someone on staff that's doing SketchUp or some other 3D modeling software and doing your renders in-house, or if you're sending it out to third-party, renders can take a tremendous amount of time to generate. And what I'm going to show you right now is how quick we do it in Modus. So we use the Modus Photo app for that, and this is a companion app to Modus VR. As soon as it's done loading up here, we will switch over. And this will look real familiar because this room is the exact same room that we were just in virtual reality. But now instead of using a VR headset to look around, we're actually using a keyboard and a mouse. And so you'll notice the room looks pretty similar, but there's one major difference, and that's the fact that we've got control over the lighting now. So instead of just using a single lighting palette, we have a lot of control over the specific lights in the room, so I can increase or decrease the can lights. Oh, I see. Those are ceiling lights there, too. So the ceiling lights here are attached to that as well. So all the lights on the ceiling are on one. If we had lamps or other types of lights in here, like sconces, those can all be individually controlled as well. And then we can turn up and down the ambient lighting. So the nice thing about this is we can then come in here. We'll throw a little content on the screen on the Media tab here. And let's just find a slide on this presentation. 26 million. That's how many dollars we're going to sell this year. So I can come in here and find a nice angle. And actually, Ken had mentioned this in the demo too. From the CEO's seat, maybe this is what's important. We want to capture that view. Just tweak the lighting a little bit to make it look pretty good. A little more ambient light. And then I just hit enter, and that's going to create an immediate screenshot of that in high resolution. So you see down at the bottom there's a little capture, a little screenshot or thumbnail of what we just captured. And maybe the other important detail is actually the sidewall. So we did these beautiful acoustic color matched panels on the sidewall, and that's just one of the customer's favorite features. So maybe we just want to capture an angle that kind of pulls in some of that content. And you know what? What the heck? This is one of those fun companies where people play video games on lunch. This is what it's going to look like if we had Fortnite playing in the background. Why not? So here we go. We'll take a quick shot of this. Maybe adjust the lights just a little bit more. And another cool thing that we can actually do is we can also adjust the focal length of the camera. And so watch the chairs here on my left, and you'll see what happens when I change this focus range. So instead of them being really fine texture, they're almost blurred out so that they're almost not part of the image, but just sort of there as a place marker. So you can actually go in here and do some really cool effects with that, where you blur things out, bring things in and out of focus. It's a fun tool to play with. You can get some really, really nice results. But again, the big thing here is that getting images like this from any other rendering platform takes so much time and effort, and ultimately that costs money. So just grab that. So now I've got a couple cool screenshots to take. The other feature that Ken had mentioned quickly here, and I'm going to take this from, I think the center of the table is probably the best place to grab this. So this is our newest feature in Modus Photo and in Modus VR. This is Modus, the 360 view. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a quick look around the room to see exactly what we're looking at. And all I have to do to capture this, let's throw some different content on the screen here. Let's go back to the presentation. There we go. Various icons. Perfect. So to capture this, I just hit Control and Enter, and you'll see it gives us this generating 360 view. And now, if I go back to my launcher, I have right here an embedded, let's see, a URL. And I'm just going to paste this into chat. And now you guys can all see that 360 view that we just created. So there's all your deliverables, quick and easy. Total time on this demo, we're at 25 minutes. So start to finish, process that in some cases could take days, if not months. Is that the wrong? Oh man, sorry, wrong one. There, try again. I do it every time. So there's the correct 360 image. But as I mentioned, all these deliverables are also going to be posted up on the CEDIA page there. So Ken will get those up in about 5 minutes. So check back if you want to see the finished product and have a look-see. So thanks for joining us for the demo. We'll be back in about 35 minutes for the next one. What's next on our agenda here? Let's just take a quick peek, give you guys a sneak peek of what's coming up. Room number 8. Oh, okay. So this one's more of a living room kind of space. It's got some cool features, and there'll be a little bit of Modus trickery going on to create some wainscoting. So that'll be a fun one. So stay tuned for that if you want to check it out. We'll be back in about 35 minutes. Thanks for joining us today at CEDIA. We're Modus VR. We appreciate your time.